Hi there, YouTube. I don't have a song for you this week. Sorry. Mainly because our entire house has been down with a nasty stomach virus, courtesy of the new school year at Harrison's preschool. Yay, preschool germs. The good news is that we have surpassed our vomit quota for the year, and thus no one in my house needs to puke again until at least the summer of 2019. All joking aside, though, I'm making this video to talk to you about a few issues with the Jehovah's Witness mindset that I've been thinking about lately. This comes out of my own experience with disfellowshipping, and I'll try not to belabor the point here since I've talked about this before. I was disfellowshipped 20 years ago, and since that time, it seems that my Jehovah's Witness family has maintained just enough contact to make sure I feel their absence. They have to make sure that I know I'm being shunned. As if I could forget, right? Well, it's hard. It's hard to have people waltz back into your life and pretend like they care about you after years of no contact, only to disappear again a few months later with no warning. It's hard to watch my children suffer for it, especially because I agonized over the decision of whether or not to let them get involved with these people at all. So my 4-year-old was crying in the car the other day because he wants to see his grandpa. And I don't know what to tell him. So I just said, I wish we could too, baby. When my boys ask me why their grandpa stopped coming to see them, all I can say is, I don't know. Because it's the truth. I was just as disfellowshipped when he was coming to visit before. I was just as disfellowshipped when we stayed at his house for a month last year. The only thing that's changed in the last few months is that he's gotten remarried, and since I don't really know the new stepmom, I can't really say whether that's why he decided to completely abandon his grandkids or not. I don't know. And even if that is why, it'd be pretty cruel to tell them that, so I'm not going to do it. I can't say it's because he's in a cult, even though he is, because A, my kids don't understand what that means, and B, it's not exactly age-appropriate conversation at this point. Look, it's hard, y'all. It's hard to see people post photos on social media where the whole family is having a grand old time, including ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who were lucky enough never to be baptized, sometimes even family members who have never been witnesses and who are actively engaging in multiple activities significantly worse on the J-Dub scale than what I was disfellowshipped for, but I'm not good enough to be included. Neither is my husband, even though he's not doing anything wrong, and he's never been a Jehovah's Witness, or my kids. It's even harder since we moved here right down the road, thinking that maybe at least they wanted to get to know the kids. I mean, they were certainly acting like that was possible. Of course, I'm thinking I could actually solve this whole problem by just deleting some people on social media. But I haven't done it because that is the last little minuscule piece of my family that I have left, and I'm hesitant to cut it off. But you know, guys, one of these days the pain is going to outweigh the love. Just know I've tried really hard to keep the door open. It's getting kind of heavy. But anyway, recently I've started to notice something. Now, I've talked before in videos about the tendency among Jehovah's Witnesses toward narcissism. I think I've finally stumbled upon at least part of the reason why. The Jehovah's Witness religion actually rewards that behavior. I mean, think about it. It's the one place where people can feel validated and even be commended and celebrated for gaslighting, bullying, shunning, and ostracizing others. Now, for some in the congregations, it's really hard, and they feel that it's wrong. In many cases, it causes enough cognitive dissonance that they eventually leave. Somebody that I think of that's a very good example of that is our friend Joe. You'll know him as number 4747 here on YouTube. He's a great example of this. As an elder and a compassionate human being, he's explained in his videos that he felt horrible about serving on judicial committees, about shunning people and effectively ruining their lives and destroying their families. Now, if, like Joe, you're smart enough to think things through to their logical conclusion, and you're a kind person, after a while, it really becomes impossible to continue as a Jehovah's Witness, doing those things that they say are right and just to do. But there are a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses who don't feel that way. There are many who enjoy a great deal taking power over other people, even if it's just the power of ostracizing and bullying. I think that the religion actually attracts narcissists because it enables and validates their mental illness. As long as it's couched in the terms of the truth, it's not only okay, it's righteous. This is crazy, y'all. But I'm linking a few articles in the description about ways to spot a narcissist and common narcissistic character traits, and I'm going to use them here to draw the parallels that I've started to notice lately. The first set is from Psychology Today. There's an article called 6 Common Traits of Narcissists and Gaslighters. Number 1, frequent lies and exaggerations. Sound familiar? I mean, we already know plenty about this one, don't we? In the 1930s, the Jehovah's Witnesses said millions now living will never die. Recently, they tried to say that what they said was millions now living may never die. My friends, that is gaslighting. It's also a lie. Number 2, they rarely admit flaws and are highly aggressive when criticized. Now, if you don't believe this is a thing, ask a Jehovah's Witness about the flip-flops and Watchtower doctrine or about the child abuse scandal. See if they don't start calling you names real quick. Number 3, false image projection. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses project a very wholesome image, so much so that people in general do a double take when you call them a cult. They're good at projecting that image. They are very good at it. And they really vehemently deny that they have a pedophile problem, while in reality, elders do not inform the rest of the congregation, even privately, when there's a pedophile in the congregation. And they certainly don't tell the public or any of the people answering their doors when witnesses knock that there might be a pedophile on their doorstep. Here's another example. Jehovah's happy people. How many times have we heard that phrase? Over and over. How many times were we told that Jehovah's Witnesses are the happiest people on earth? And how many of us were genuinely happy as Jehovah's Witnesses? I know I wasn't. And I knew many Jehovah's Witnesses who were on antidepressants or were dealing with deep depression and other mental issues. We have all heard about the suicides. And they're caused by this gaslighting on such a large scale, y'all. Number 4, rule breaking and boundary violation. Now, it seems kind of odd to say that witnesses engage in rule breaking. I mean, I guess it depends on whose rules we're talking about. But when it comes to boundary violation, as an organization, they do it as a matter of policy. Examples? It's a huge boundary violation for them to publish articles, give talks, counsel, and even disfellowship people for what they chose to do with their own consenting spouse in the privacy of their own bedroom. But they did that, y'all. It's a boundary violation to ask invasive sexual questions, whether it's asking a teenager about their masturbatory habits or grilling a brother or sister who has supposedly committed fornication in a judicial committee meeting. It is a boundary violation to coerce someone into baptism, and to try to coerce them back into reinstatement after being disfellowshipped by holding their family and friends hostage. It is a boundary violation to stalk people and report back to the elders every move they make for years after they've ceased being a Jehovah's Witness. But you know what? I'm going on 20 years and they're still doing it. It's a boundary violation to insert themselves into someone's family or marriage or relationship, acting as if they have any right whatsoever to be there at all, much less call the shots. Number 5, emotional invalidation and coercion. Now, remember what I said a minute ago about Jehovah's happy people? That's emotional invalidation. The emptiness, the loneliness, the sadness and exhaustion that we felt as active Jehovah's Witnesses was never acknowledged. We couldn't even acknowledge it to ourselves. They told us in a million different subtle and not so subtle ways that what we felt was happy. And if you weren't happy living this life, something was wrong with you. And as for coercion, I'll tell you, I was heavily coerced into baptism. It was presented to me as the only way to redeem myself, to prove that I was worthy of living, to prove that my mother wasn't a failure as a parent, as if that was my responsibility. That's a lot to put on an 11-year-old kid, especially when you consider the consequences of that very, very poor decision. Number 6, manipulation, the use or control of others as an extension of oneself. I mean, come on. Do I even have to explain this one? Read their literature. It's one big manipulation from start to finish. Now, as if that wasn't enough, here are a few more from an article in the Huffington Post called 18 Ways to Spot a Narcissist. I'm not going to go through all 18, but here are a few, just the highlights. Number 1, they're likable, at least at first glance. Aren't they? Nice, clean-cut, well-spoken people who never have a harsh word to say, at least not where you can hear them. Honestly, most Jehovah's Witnesses are nice people. I like most of them I've ever met. It's their leadership I have a big freaking problem with. Most Jehovah's Witnesses, if they hadn't been brainwashed, would be very nice people indeed, and I mean that. They always manage to make the conversation about themselves. Don't they? I mean, you can't ever have a normal conversation with one of them. It always comes back to the truth, the new system, getting reinstated, whether you want to or not. Appearance is everything to them. Oh yeah. Even the not really top secret if you're not a Jehovah's Witness Elder's Manual alludes to this. If a sin occurred a long time ago and nobody knows about it, often they'll leave it in Jehovah's hands, especially if the sinner's male. But if people know about it, must disfellowship. I mean, this is the same bullshit behind their child abuse cover-up. So when I was molested as a kid, I was told that we were never to talk about it because it would bring reproach on Jehovah's name. Now, it always seemed to me that it was the perpetrator who brought the reproach, but obviously, what do I know? They are strongly averse to criticism. Oh, you think they aren't? Start talking to them about 1975, or the Australian Royal Commission, or the UN, if they know anything about that at all, which many of them don't because they're not allowed to do real research. Ask them about any of those things, they'll start calling you names, like apostate, which to them basically means you're the devil. 12. They leave a trail of wreckage behind them. Now, witnesses would never acknowledge this fact, but it's true. The evidence is there. The suicides, the families that have been ripped apart, the people who've been rejected by everybody they know for trivial things, the kids that have been molested and told that it was their fault, the parents who've been conditioned to override their instincts and trust in Jehovah's organization to sort things out, and the organization does absolutely nothing. And it doesn't stop there, right? This is the worst part. What about the children of those disfellowship people, completely innocent in all of it, who are punished and ostracized and who miss out on important foundational relationships because their mother or father smoked cigarettes or voted or read unapproved literature or had sex 20 years ago? Really? Everything is personal. Yes, it is. Witnesses get very upset when those of us on the outside fail to keep our mouths shut about what has been done to us. They try to make it personal by saying, you chose to get baptized. This is all your fault. It's because of your actions. And they take it personally when we point out all the problems with that. Why do you hate us? What did we ever do to you? Well, look, Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't hate you. And very few of the people you call apostates actually do. We love you. We love you despite everything. We miss you, but I tell you, in case you can't tell, I am mad as hell at your organization. Mad as hell. The important distinction here is that the individual Jehovah's Witness is not the organization. Just like the organization is not Jehovah. At different times, my Jehovah's Witness relatives have accused me of being mad at them personally and of being mad at God. And just no, I'm mad at the organization that has knowingly lied to its followers about just about everything it's ever said for years. It's all just a money-making scheme, and it's cost me my entire family, all of my childhood friends, all of whom continue to insist that said loss is my fault. I have every right to be pissed about that. A narcissistic person probably has no idea that he or she is a narcissist. Right. Just like the average Jehovah's Witness has no idea that he or she is behaving like an asshole, because to them, the way they're behaving is just and righteous. They are doing what they have been brainwashed to do. Oh, you don't like the word brainwashing? I'm sorry, that's what they've done. If you don't believe me, try doing some research outside the Watchtower. So, to bring it all home, born-in Jehovah's Witnesses have all been manipulated, coerced, and gaslit their entire lives. And that's before you consider any dysfunctional family dynamics that exist anyway, apart from the religion. And every family has them. Some are much worse than others. My family is pretty messed up, even without the religion, but putting the family dysfunction inside the narcissistic dysfunctional framework of the Jehovah's Witnesses made it much, much worse. And the worst part is that it's generational, that it gets passed down and passed on, even when people leave the faith. The issues don't change or go away just because people leave the organization or just because certain people weren't raised Jehovah's Witness. So after a lifetime of being told that my feelings aren't accurate or valid and that I effectively don't matter, and after years of therapy to try to figure out what's wrong with me, it turns out I have the answer, and the answer is not a damn thing. See, these days I recognize loud and clear when somebody's trying to gaslight me. And honey, it puts me right over the edge. And that, I suspect, is why the Jehovah's Witnesses think that all opposers, apostates, and whatever other names they want to call at us are angry, bitter people. It's because so many of us have PTSD. Jehovah's Witnesses trigger us. It's like they think they can go tap dancing through a minefield and not get blown to kingdom come. It's like setting off fireworks around combat veterans. What do they think is going to happen? Oh, wait. They don't think. And that's the problem.